Investigators say 21-year-old DeVale Alexander suffered gunshot wounds to the hand and leg. Well, News Leader 9 wants to help you stop the pain at the pump. The longtime Montgomery County Sheriff D.T. Marshall says he would like nothing more than to arrest the people who are using his good name in what he calls an internet scam. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to News Leader 9 at noon. I'm Roslyn Giles in for Cheryl Renee. Thanks for joining us. We start with some sad news to report this afternoon. TMZ is reporting Donna Summer died just a few hours ago after a battle with cancer. Summer was 63 years old. She was also a 5-time Grammy winner who shot to stardom in the 1970s with hits like Last Dance, Hot Stuff, and Bad Girls. She, of course, will always be remembered. Well, some fantastic news this afternoon for all you job seekers out there. The Peach State's unemployment rate has dropped for the 9th month in a row. Georgia's April jobless rate of 8.9% also marks the first time in more than 3 years the rate has dropped below 9%. This time last year, the state's unemployment rate was close to 10%. Well, within the hour, police say a gunman who barricaded himself inside a landmark restaurant in Savannah's historic downtown surrendered. Savannah police say the man was taken into custody without incident after a SWAT team entered the upscale Old Pink House restaurant. The standoff that began around 8 a.m. shut down streets, squares, and tourist spots for more than 3 hours. There were no hostages and no reports of injuries. Well, folks opposing Alabama's immigration law gathered outside the state house last night. They were praying Governor Robert Bentley will listen and not sign the immigration revisions. They wanted it repealed. Earlier yesterday, 7 demonstrators protesting the law were arrested for trying to block the entrances to both chambers. Well, that Georgia graduate student fighting a rare flesh-eating bacterial infection has seen the severe damage to her hands and is accepting it without tears. 24-year-old Amy Copeland remains in critical condition at Augusta Hospital more than 2 weeks after she fell onto some rocks in a creek. She doesn't know yet that doctors had to amputate most of her left leg. They expect to amputate her fingers as well. Her father says Amy has looked at her hands and asked about the damage. She is amazing. After initially saying she probably wouldn't survive, doctors are now optimistic she will recover. That is good news. Army leaders are launching a sweeping independent review of how the service evaluates soldiers with possible post-traumatic stress disorder. This announcement comes following recent complaints that some PTSD diagnoses were improperly overturned. The Army said it would review the diagnosis at all of its medical facilities going back to October 2001. Well, 2-time national championship winner Nick Saban will be in town today. Approximately 400 soldiers are expected to give Alabama's head football coach a hearty welcome. Some graduating troops and soldiers from the Wounded Warriors Battalion will cheer Saban on as he enters the National Infantry Museum around 4:30 this afternoon. Saban will make a few comments as some of the soldiers prepare to deploy to Afghanistan. Well, News Leader 9 wants to help you stop the pain at the pump. Watch WTVM tomorrow between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. for the cue to call, and you could win $99 in free gas. It doesn't get much better than that. We will announce today's winner on News Leader 9 at 6. New at noon, music impacts our lives in so many ways, but for some, it can be used for much more than enjoyment. ABC's Jessica Ray takes a look at how music therapy is changing lives.
Music is our tool.
Yes, and a wonderful tool at that. Well, if you missed out on South Georgia's moment of fame on American Idol, no worries. We'll show more of it to you just ahead.
Well, Chuck, I tell you, here at the pump, what we're hearing from analysts is it is highly unlikely that those prices will climb that fast.
We're told he will answer to those serious charges, 3 counts of capital murder and 2 counts of assault. More drivers and passengers are strapping themselves in now than they did before. It's the difference between a teaspoon size of blood and a coffee cup.
It's kind of hard to turn. You have no power steering in here, so do you think I can handle it?
You can do it.
All right,
you can do it. Okay. Unbelievable. Excuse me, I got to go get my car back.
Taking a bite out of this apple may be good for you, but not for Fido.
Your gear set up, you're good to go. You want to lock your key?
Recovery crews put their boats back in the water for a second day at Uchee Creek in Russell County Thursday. They're looking for a missing man who went down Wednesday evening. He was fishing with 2 friends.
If the weather permits, the use of the side scan will stay till dark.
As divers put their boats back into the water, they're also using side-scan sonars, hoping to get a better image of the missing man's body from the bottom of the river as family wait to get answers. The man in the blue shirt is John Price. He's the brother of 72-year-old Henry Price. John says his older brother loved to fish. Childhood friend Ben Smith says he's in shock.
His whole life fished up and down the river.
Officers say the three men were inside a 17-inch bass boat when something went terribly wrong.
They lost control of the vessel and hit a tree on the west side of the riverbank.
One survived. He was rescued Wednesday night. 6 hours later, the tide would turn. Divers recovered the first body. The victim was identified as 60-year-old Dennis Harris. After scouring the river again, the body of Henry Price, the second victim, was pulled from the bottom of the river as family watched the painful scene.
You know, Henry's a good guy.
A good guy who died doing what he loved to do. In Russell County, Roslyn Giles, WTVM, News Leader 9. It's been 2 months now since the old Swift Mill on 6th Avenue caught on fire. Demolition and cleanup crews are still working to clear the site. They are pressure washing the bricks to remove the smoke and dust that are still clinging to what's left of the once 400,000 square feet facility. Demolition Supervisor Ronald Reed from Meredith Environmental of Birmingham says there's still a lot of work to be done.
I think we're like 6 weeks into the job, and I'm not sure what the deadline is, but we're pretty close, to being finished.
Any idea how long it's going to take you?
Probably a couple more weeks.
The cleanup process continues. Is still a mystery as to how the fire started or who these two men are. Fire officials say both were seen near the site at the time of the blaze. The owners of this property say they're hoping the persons of interest will come forward, or at least anyone else who knows anything about how this fire may have started. They say it would at least bring them closure. In Columbus, Roslyn Giles, WTVM, News Leader 9. May 2011, the Russell County Sheriff's Department received a complaint about a potential case involving a student and this teacher, Abby Bundrick.
We interviewed all the parties involved.
The complaint, Sheriff Taylor says, came from someone at Russell County High. That's where the student attended school, and Bundrick worked as a non-certified English teacher and cheerleading coach.
Allegations of inappropriate relationship between a student and a teacher.
Russell County School Superintendent Mike Green says Bundrick has been placed on paid leave for the past 4 months.
Concerns about some actions that she may have taken last year or something that she may have done with us outside of school, and so that's why we placed her on leave.
Bundrick wasn't arrested until recently after the grand jury, based on evidence, decided to charge Bundrick for distributing material which is harmful to minors.
Just about anything involving school and kids, we very often send them to the grand jury.
Bundrick and her attorney, Jeremy Armstrong, are not commenting on the case, and authorities are not talking about the specifics that led to her arrest. It may be here in court before those details are heard. In the meantime, Bundrick is scheduled to appear before a judge here November 18th. In Phoenix City, Roslyn Giles, WTVM, News Leader 9.